Here's an AMI This Week shortcut with Shelby Travers.
Arguably, Ottawa's best butter tart started out as an error. However, owner of Frank's Bakery, Frank Spartico, soon realized that error was a blessing in disguise. Now, this tart I have to give a try.
I cut the amount of eggs that I'd put into the tart, but the tart was so much better that way that we decided to keep the recipe the way it was.
The bakery's success wasn't a fluke.
I started working at the Talisman Hotel as a busboy. Fell in love with kitchen work. Then at 21, I bought my first delicatessen, and that was it. And I've always had a passion for cooking.
In 2009, however, he received some sobering news.
My son was diagnosed with Tourette's. At first, when he started presenting his tics, my wife, Murray, she didn't understand what was going on, but I told her, I said, that's exactly what I went through as a kid. It's just a quirk. Then we went through the process going through CHEO and getting him diagnosed, and that's when I realized that having done all the same tics and everything when I was younger, that I had Tourette's also.
The revelation may explain why Frank's attention to detail is what sets his bakery apart.
I can hyper-focus. I like things a certain way. I'm a lot better when I'm really busy. When I'm not as busy, I'll tic more, fidgety. I want to do something, so I always find projects.
Tourette syndrome affects 1 in 100 Canadians, with the onset of symptoms beginning around the age of 4 to 7. Jill Bobula is the president of the Ottawa chapter of Tourette Canada.
Tourette syndrome is a neurological condition that's generally characterized by tics. You can have motor tics as well as vocal tics. So motor tics would include physical movements, for example, eye blinking, head movements, and then you have the vocal tics. So the vocal tics could be a sound, could be clenching your teeth, could be sucking on your tongue, could be words, could be chill, chill, chill. It could be sentences. Most people think that Tourette syndrome is someone who swears, and that's referred to as coprolalia, and it actually happens in less than 5% of people that have Tourette syndrome.
Frank's self-realization as an adult is not typical.
I suspect that with Frank, that maybe the health professionals weren't aware what Tourette syndrome was. He may have hid his tics because oftentimes that's what happens. People, there's a lot of stigma and discrimination, and so people will prevent themselves from actually ticking in front of others.
But like the tarts, Frank used his realization as a blessing and used the success of the bakery to be able to raise awareness of Tourette syndrome.
When Luca got diagnosed, my wife and a few friends of ours were sitting around, and I'd said, listen, I want to do something for Tourette's syndrome. I said, I want to do a $1 sandwich day. We'll do it on a Sunday, just to raise awareness, to say, hey, you know what, we're okay, we're normal, we tic, but you know what, we're just regular people like you.
That was the start of the Spartico awareness campaign. The bakery was also used to help a young man in need.
Jill Bobula had called me from the Trust chapter in Ottawa and said that she had a kid that had to do co-op that had severe Tourette's and that he needed a work placement. So when Dylan came to me, he was shy, didn't really interact with people. So when he came to Frank's as a co-op student, I told him, I said, here buddy, it's a free zone for you, tick away.
The outcome may have been different for Dylan if Frank hadn't stepped in and given him employment.
Here was a beautiful young man who didn't feel that there was any point in living, really. Frank has given Dylan purpose in life. He's made Dylan believe that he can achieve whatever he wants to achieve, despite everything that happens outside in terms of people thinking that Dylan is less than he really is.
The bakery is also home to some of Ottawa's best sandwiches, but it will always be its relationship with Tourette syndrome that defines its identity.
I mean, I'm just happy with what we do, that we give, and that we've changed lives of so many people that, we've had people come into the store and say, you know what, I was afraid to tick in front of people, and now I tick freely. I said, it's awesome.